You know what time it is.
What's up, beer people?
If you heard it on the hashtag beer time, it's true.
It must be true.
It's true. It is fact. Please, won't you name one of your beers Cart Horse?
And just do something terrible. Just brew shit beer.
Stick your finger in there every now and again.
Stir it with the sock.
Every show, it feels like my first show.
Every show is a new adventure.
Having some good conversation here, Mr. Troy.
Did I make sense there? I think I did.
I love them all.
Are we all fair?
This is episode 43 of Hashtag Beer Time with me, T-Bone Troy. In this episode, we talk to Sean and Lucy, who are leading the campaign Hashtag Let Us Buy Beer. Have you ever walked into a South African supermarket and wondered, wow, I can buy wine, but I can't buy beer? This is something that Sean and Lucy are fighting to try and get equal rights for beer. We talk about a host of other things, including the Cape Town Beer Week that has just passed, and all the events that came with it, including the Great Beer Debates, the International Beer Day, IPA Day, and then the big one, the Woodstock Winter Beer Festival. We chat about the African Beer Cup that Sean and Lucy are putting together, and then Lucy's weekend course on brewing beyond the basics. We also try some hemp beer, and you can hear our reaction in the show. Guys, it's a great one. I hope you enjoy it. Check you later. Ciao.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new segment I like to call Story Time. Hello. This is a special Hashtag Beer Time exclusive. We're going to tell you a little story about a guy, middle-aged, in his 30s, and he wanted to do something nice for his friends and family. So he decided to invite them around for a lovely meal. He was going to cook the meal, and he'd always wanted to make a stout pie. You know those rich, meaty gravy pies where you add the delicious stout into the ingredients, and he was so excited about this. And so what he did, he got on his bicycle because he was a hipster living in Cape Town, and he cycled to his local supermarket where he walked inside and did some shopping, bought the necessities of all the things that you need to make a pie. And then he thought, oh, there's one last thing that I need to get, and that is the stout. So he walked to where, I think it was the wine section. He walked to the back of the supermarket, he found the wine section, and he had some lovely wines on offer, but it wasn't wine that he was after. He was after a stout. And he looked around, he looked in the shelves, and he couldn't find any stout. He couldn't find any beer. He was very confused. And so he called the manager, and the manager came around, and he explained his grief at the fact that there was no beer, in fact, available to purchase at the superstore. And just like that, it got dark. It got very dark. Lights began to flicker. It seemed like it was just him and the manager. Just standing there. He just kept looking at him and smiling at him. And the manager was he kept laughing. A bead of sweat began to trickle down the back of his neck. He was confused, frightened, scared. Why couldn't he buy beer in a supermarket? It was like no one was there. The shop was empty. Mist began to roll in. One of those Cape Town mists that are quite common this time of the year. And the music started playing. That creepy closing music, as if it was time to go home. He knew he had to get out. He had to get out quick. And that's when it happened. And that's how it ends, people. Or does it? And we're back with hashtag beer time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad you put up with that story. And I think it was an appropriate story. Guys, my guest, was that an appropriate story? Was it acceptable?
I think that's pretty much how things happened, although I'm not sure about the middle-aged thing.
I'm completely lost at the moment.
Guys, you are in fact listening to hashtag beer time, the show all about beer. And let me welcome my guests. Let me just do a quick sound check. Check, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, they need very little introduction because they've been on the show a few times, and they are the Hollywood celebrity couple of Cape Town in terms of beer. That was a reach, but I think we could go with that.
The Brangelina of beer.
Well,
That might be a bit of a stretch.
and it didn't end well.
Kanye West and Kim Kardashian.
Yes, okay, let's go with that.
We are douches.
You are douches. Guys, I am talking about Lucy and Sean from Dissidents and the Beer Mistress. Brew Mistress, my God. I have too many people on the show and I just forget. Actually, when they walked into the studio, I greeted them twice. So I think they can forgive me because my head is all over the place. Hey, what's new? Guys, why are you in the studio?
If you don't know, then how the hell are we supposed to know?
I think we've got a great show lined up because we want to talk about a new campaign. Hashtag Let Us Buy Beer. I like the hashtag. It's catchy. But before we dive in, let's try some treats. What are we drinking?
So we bought a selection of beers today. The theme between the beers is all of these beers are beers that you cannot buy in supermarkets in South Africa. That's the theme of the beers today. So what should we start with? We're going to save that one until a little bit later.
When do we do it for one of these?
Okay. So we have from Karoo Craft Breweries. They're based out in Paarl, and they're doing a single hop range. So we're going to try, I think, the Passion Smash, which I have not read, but assume to be Southern Passion.
So this is
So it's local.
a smash beer. I haven't seen too many smash beers available on option in South Africa.
Yeah, they're doing a whole range. So single malt and single hop. I think it's also SAB malt. I'm guessing it just says pale malt on it, but I'm stretching and guessing that. They're actually Karoo Craft Breweries. They open their tap room this Friday, I believe.
Now
Siemens Flay.
is that? Oh my word, that's very light. Am I correct in saying that's on the way to Paarl? There's a big wine bottle.
Yeah.
Oh, the irony! There's a big wine bottle.
That's the place.
Smells quite fruity, I must admit. It looks like, I don't know if it's the light in the studio, but it looks quite like a grapefruity gin and tonic color. Anyway, let's.
Yeah, I think whoever said it was 100% tested.
Let's cheers. Let's cheers. This first beer. Welcome back.
Cheers, thank you.
Sorry about the mix-up with names. Did you at least like the story?
I thought the story was awesome. I got a little confused.
I should maybe do more stories.
Absolutely.
No?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe just have a completely
you should
separate.
do story hour. The first hour should be beer time, hashtag beer time, and then hashtag story time.
Then we get the drink on. Okay, cool. So, so they use the Southern Passion, which is a local South African hop, and a local South African malt. But I must admit, I'm getting quite a very fruity, like a
Granadilla kind of vibe.
yeah, like extreme, like almost like one of those concentrated fruit drinks.
There's something
Secrets
real
of the
weird in
Valley.
those as well, though, eh?
You get alcohol.
But flavor-wise, it's quite refreshing, quite crisp.
That's a nice beer. I mean, I think the nice thing about smash beers is you really can. Your malt has to be very good, but it really doesn't allow the hops to shine through. Because you're not going to have tons of different malts, and they're not going to have tons of different flavor. Ideally, they used to be quite clean, and then the hops can really shine. And for Southern Passion to shout to, it's very nice.
Sean, why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you pick this microphone up that's closest to you and just put it towards you?
Test 1, 2.
Oh, you sound terrific. Cool. We can actually go back to using our own mics. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We try to move the microphones around in the studio. Nothing new on hashtag Beer Time, folks. Always technical issues. But, okay, so let's dive right into this beer before we go on to with today's subject. I'm very happy that there's a brewery making smash beers. I think it's a great educational resource for other brewers, for the industry, for drinkers to find out first what the hell is a smash beer. What is a smash beer, Sean?
Smash beer, as Lucy said, it means single malt.
Am I repeating myself?
Single hop. Again.
It's gonna. Yeah. Hi. Welcome to the show.
I think usually the idea is they're going to use the same malt for the whole series because I believe there's 4 in the series. So they use the same malt and then a different hop, and then you can. It's a good way to see what certain hops do to the beer. You know, the aromas and flavors and bitterness.
I think it'd be interesting as well if they use different malts. I mean, we get quite a wide variety of different malts from all over the world. That'd be quite interesting to do it.
Or you could do the same hop and different malts.
Do the same hop with different malts. Do a Simpson malt, do a Castle malt, do a SAB malt.
Yes.
And let people try. I mean, we did something like that a couple of years ago, didn't we, with the different malts to see which one we thought was best.
But
So that's what we do on our Friday nights. What do you do on Friday night?
I go to bed early. Welcome to the show, by the way. No,
I'm getting a bit worried about.
Yes, I'm also very worried about myself. I see. This is it brings about a little bit of another discussion, which I don't want to get too much involved in it because we're talking about something else. But I like if a small brewery or just any brewery, mind you, makes a small batch of these just to test the markets. I'm worried that there's some other breweries out there that are making these massive batches as testers, but they're not selling. So what I like about Karoo, which is a small brewery, and anyone else who makes small batches, is that they're just testing the markets to see what happens. I mean, wasn't it BrewDog who brought up those the silver cans, and they kind of just did a once-off, and you had to vote for your favorite can. I think it was also very similar. I think it was a smash beer, or they used very certain types of hops or malt. And I can just hear this crackle come back. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that it's great to have this kind of educational resource available on the shelf. Even for someone like me, who I'm very interested to see what a smash beer with Southern Passion tastes like. And then, yeah, hopefully, like you say, it will evolve. Just 4 at the moment. But why smash? No. Okay, let's move on quickly. Thank you, Karoo Brewing Company. Karoo.
Terribly named, really, considering they're in Paul.
Karoo Craft Breweries. Does it matter?
Well, they're not in the Karoo.
Can I call myself? I don't know where I'm going with this.
You can be Johannesburg Craft.
Did you say Geraldine?
I think you're an idiot.
Geraldine.
Yeah, I thought Geraldine would suit you.
Geraldine's Brewery. Yes.
I just think it's. Why call yourself the Karoo Craft Breweries if you're not in the Karoo? You know, unless you've got some real, maybe someone was born in the Karoo or grew up there or has an affinity with the Karoo. But it seems a bit like I would expect the Karoo Craft Brewery to be in Britstown.
Oudtshoorn or somewhere. Yeah, you'd need a very strong connection to be able to brew somewhere else.
But even if you had that connection, like if I started Thunder Bay Breweries here in South Africa, it would be odd. Because that's in Canada.
I would look forward to that.
Well, yes, but people would probably be like, I don't get it.
Good name, though.
Well,
that must be an awesome place.
Yeah. Well,
Thunder Bay. That is where Mr. Sean's from. Thunder Bay is it Ontario? What state is it at?
Ontario. It's a province.
Ontario? My apologies.
Ontario, don't you know?
Let's talk... Before we talk rubbish, which tends to happen...
We're not already started.
Which tends to happen from my side. There's been a massive campaign. I'm going to say massive because it really is massively weighted. There's a massive campaign that was launched, I think it was last week, Wednesday. And it's the brainchild of you guys where I think you'd been thinking about it and talking about it for a while now, and that was this campaign to get beer, having beer sold in supermarkets, because as from most of our guests can hear, you guys are not originally from South Africa. Lucy's from England, Sean's from
Thunder Bay.
Somewhere. Where are you from again? Don't worry, guys. I'm not losing my mind. So where you guys are from, I mean, you guys can go into your local grocery supermarkets and just...
In Ontario.
Yes, you can now. They had a successful campaign last year, and you weren't. When we lived in Canada, you couldn't buy beer and alcohol at all, actually, in supermarkets, but you can now.
The way it used to be in Ontario is you could go to one place to buy beer.
The LCBO.
Well, there was the LCBO, which was like the Liquor Control Board of Ontario. So you could buy wine and spirits, and it had a couple of beers, and then you could go to the aptly named The Beer Store to buy all your beer. But the beer store was government owned, and also owned by Molson Canadian, by Molson.
So what was on sale for?
But if you think, like, that's why, I mean, for craft beer came in after I left Canada, but it was very difficult to get your beers into the beer store. You could maybe get them in an LCBO in small batches in small places, but to get them where people would go and buy cases of beer, it was very difficult. And now, of course, we have changed the law, but it's the same thing here, where we need to change things around to make beer accessible to everyone. And there's no reason it shouldn't be, especially craft beer. Because it has grown, and it is good for the economy, and it's something that people should have the choice. If they want to buy it in a grocery store, they should be able to.
It seems like it is one of those arguments where if you argue against it, you could come back with an even stronger counter-argument to say, but why not? Or, you know, like, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I'd like to go over maybe some arguments, because I think that is what some people have asked. And I know we've been working on the campaign. I've chipped in my 2 cents here and there. But, you know, what do you think could be the main pushback from, let's say, governments? Why wouldn't they want beer sold in supermarkets?
This is the question that we've kind of been asking. Is like, can you come up with a good reason why beer is not sold in supermarkets? And so far, nobody has come up with a good reason. Nobody seems to really know why wine is available in supermarkets and beer is not. The best that I could find is the fact that in the 70s, the wine lobby campaigned to get wine, because wine wasn't sold in supermarkets back then either, and campaigned to get wine into supermarkets, grocery stores. Nobody ever campaigned for beer. So here we are.
So here we go.
Hashtag let us buy beer.
Yes, exactly. So starting the snowball, hopefully, to get into something big.
So we've spoken to the liquor board, and they basically, they said that at no point did they say, "Oh no, it's because XYZ, it won't ever be allowed."
They've said you need to go through certain.
Well, the main change that needs to be done is there's the Western Cape Liquor Act of 2008, and there's a I think it's part 4 that says that only table wine, may be sold in grocery stores. And then it has a definition of table wine. So to get beer in there, all we need is we add in only table wine and malt-based beer, and then we have a definition of malt-based beer.
Yes.
So it's very simple. And then from there, the grocery stores would have to change their liquor license to allow for the sale of beer. We'll get to that, but the first thing we need to do in the Western Cape, at least, is change that Liquor Act.
Is to make it legal. To make it an
So
actual...
that would make it legal.
Yes.
At the moment, you can only buy table wine. And I think one of the reasons was that, I mean, for a long time, wine had a much better lobby than beer ever did. SAB obviously didn't care that much about it.
Yes.
And I mean, there was probably, 15, 20 years ago, you probably could make the argument of like, well, it's not, beer's not really, doesn't really go with food. People just kind of drink and then they move on to the wine.
Yeah.
But now,
things have changed.
That is completely changed. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to go out and grab a 6-pack of CC Pilsner or Devil's Peak IPA or Karoo Craft Brewery's Azaka Smash.
Yes.
Along with your steak.
Or indeed a stout along with the other ingredients for your pie.
But I think we can totally throw out the arguments about alcohol abuse. Because
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Wine's usually in double digits, 10, 11, 12%. You can buy Crackling for, I don't know, $30 a bottle. Craft beer is $30 a bottle for 5%.
I went into one of the big supermarkets yesterday, and I saw 3 liters of wine for 80 Rand. Like you said, it's a double digit, so it was 12% alcohol. You're not going to go buy that wine to sip and enjoy. Well, maybe you are. But I can tell you now that if we're having arguments about alcohol abuse, and I'm talking about different demographics, which I think is a major concern, that's the kind of thing that you need to actually be looking out for, is high spirits, cheap, non-enjoyable. I've never had Papsak.
I don't believe that for a second.
You were 14 once.
I was at university once. But you see I think so. We can kind of. I'm happy to throw that argument out about alcohol abuse, because it just doesn't stand. One thing that my dad did bring to the table, which my dad's worked in the alcohol industry for most of his life, which I found quite interesting, was that you're going to get pushback from governments in terms of making money. What would happen if you took beer from a bottle store and moved it into a grocery store? Would a bottle store suffer? Now, obviously, with our current liquor laws, we've seen a lot of, if 70% of the major retailers open a liquor version of their store, and it's usually located next door or a few meters away. Would those shops be in danger of closing down because you're moving a beer across? I doubt it, because you've moved wine across.
I was going to say, if that was true, then why is the vast amount of real estate in a liquor store wine?
Yes.
When I can buy it in Pick n Pay.
Yes.
I can buy it in Spar. Why is it all wine? Shouldn't it all be beer and spirits? And it's not. It's all wine. Because people still, I don't think, the thing is, and I had this chat with another distributor who said he's worried that this would hurt the small independent guys. So not Tops or Pick n Pay Liquor, but guys like Roland Liquors, the Liquor City guys.
Yes.
Biggest little beer shop.
Biggest little beer shop. And I said, but the thing is, it won't. Because, let's face it as well, especially at the beginning, the beers are going to be in there. There is going to be some SAB stuff. There'll be CBC. It'll be Darling, it'll be Devil's Peak.
The big guys.
But your Karoo Craft Breweries is not going to be in Pick n Pay.
And so it will still be where if you want your specialty wine, it's a good wine, and your specialty spirits and your specialty beer, you go to liquor stores. You go to places like Roland, you go to Biggest Little Beer Shop, because they have beer that you can't get anywhere else, and that Pick n Pay and Spar won't touch. But I think putting the beer in there, I don't think it will hurt. The only people who I think would be against it, who would fight against it, would be the wine lobby, because we're going to take some of their real estate. But it's time for beer and craft beer to be on that level with wine.
I think any argument when you compare it to wine, not to beat up the wine lovers, but it just doesn't, like, at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense why wine can be in the supermarket and beer can't.
So the best example I can think of is if you can imagine living in a place where you went to a grocery store and you wanted to buy cheese, but you couldn't buy cheddar cheese. You can buy blue cheese, you can buy mozzarella.
That is a sad supermarket.
You can get all of that. You can get all of those things, but legally, you're not allowed to buy cheddar cheese, even though the majority of the country eats cheddar cheese. It's kind of, it's people like to have it every day. It sells well in the liquor stores. But
the cheese stores.
But you're not allowed to buy that cheese in a normal grocery store. Can you imagine if there was a law like that? People would say, but that's stupid. Why can't I buy cheddar cheese as well as other cheeses?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with beer not being sold in grocery stores.
I think it also comes down to people being scared. We've had the structure for, you said the wine thing lobbied in the 70s. So we've had this for 40, almost 50 years now, where it's just how things are. So I think people are scared. Government might be scared that if you change things, will people lose jobs? Will the government lose money? Another thing my dad said is that, the massive percentage of where government makes their money are on those high spirits, because the higher the spirits, the higher you get taxed. And so there's massive revenue coming from those vodkas, brandies, the cheap spirits. Well, not cheap, but anyway. So their arguments, or they are perhaps scared that if a bottle store was to close, that's an extra platform for them to lose out on.
I can't imagine.
But that is on top of so many steps, to get there. Like, I find it hard to believe that a bottle store would close because you're moving beer into the shop just down the road.
Well, it's not like you're moving it and taking it out of the bottle store either. If you go to Pick and Pay, you can buy a Spear 2017 Shiraz. And if you go to Pick and Pay Liquor, you can buy that same Spear 2017 Shiraz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's in the same... So it's not like wine has not been removed from liquor stores in order to put it in supermarkets.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's suggesting that beer is removed from liquor stores to be only sold in supermarkets, but that the option should be there for a supermarket to sell beer if they want to sell beer. And so the first step... What we need from your lovely listeners is for them to go to...
Listen up, folks.
This is the important part. To go to www.letusbuybeer.com, watch the awesome video.
It is.
And feel free to chip in via Twitter or your social media of choice if you can come up with a good reason, because nobody in the video could come up with a good reason, and I haven't met anybody yet who can come up with a good reason. And then there's a little form just below the video. It takes approximately 26 seconds to fill in the form.
What is it?
Slowly,
My name?
It's your name.
Date of birth, my address.
Yeah.
What?
And
Is
then,
that it?
And then it's basically, we're then collecting all these, the completed forms, and every week we send the batch to the Western Cape Liquor Board.
Oh, lovely.
So we had a couple of hundred in the first few days of the campaign, so it started off well. We need people to keep up the momentum and to share it with, wider than just the beer community. We need the general beer drinking community as well as the sort of beer fanatics that are likely listening to your show. Hello, beer fanatics.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, if everyone kind of just tried to start the conversation of why can't we buy beer in grocery stores, and do you want to? I can imagine most people would say, I don't know why we can't. And yes, I don't see why anyone would be against buying beer or having beer in grocery stores. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunity this week to get more signatories on board. And because I don't know if you guys or the listeners know, but it is something I and maybe a few other people have coined this term, Beer Week. There's a bit of a Beer Week happening now in Cape Town. But before we get into that, let's play some Bon Jovi.
Oh, yay!
I knew you'd like that. Okay, I like this song, and I know you will like it too. See you after the break, ladies and gentlemen. Ciao, ciao. Okay, welcome back. It is #Beer Time, where we don't play cheesy piano music. Goodbye. We have Sean and Lucy in the studio. Hello, Sean. Hello, Lucy. I'm Troy. Welcome.
Hi, Troy. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you for ages.
I was telling them I was losing my mind. Let's
Actually, we told you were losing your mind.
and then I told myself that I'm losing my mind. Let's have a beer. Okay, we only had one beer in that first half, which is very much it's no good. Let's crack open a beer. What have you brought us? You brought us some treats there. There's a silver cap.
Okay, let's go with this.
A blue cap. Ooh,
let's go with this one because it's a session brew. So let's start off with this. So this is a golden ale from Big Sip Co.
Big Sip Co. I've never heard of them.
They are Botswana's first craft brewery.
What?
So this will be our first sip of Big Sip.
My first sip of a Botswanan craft beer.
Anyone's
the first
it's
one
the
ever,
first.
really.
It's their first craft brewery.
Well, St. Louis.
This now. Do you have a?
I'm afraid I don't have a. Is it really just?
That's be yours.
Yes, here we go. We're just passing some glasses around.
So yes, the guy from Big Sip was down in Cape Town last week, and he was at the CBSA beer meeting on Thursday, and he left a few bottles. So there are 4 in the range. Or we should have poured this all in one go. It's bottle conditioned.
Is it a little bottle conditioned? Sean, that's a look.
So this is the same style as Dissident's Golden Ale.
Ooh.
Sean's beer.
It is.
So Sean's, an expert on the style.
It's got a bit of an orangey, citrusy nose.
I think it's very nice. I mean, it's
Supple.
bottle conditioned.
So there's
I think one of the things that they do have to work on that. This will have the least amount of yeast in it, and it has been lying flat for a while, so it is a bit cloudy. But it's it's clean. It's very nice. We've got a nice nose.
Pretty tasty beer, actually. Nice hop profile. Quite fruity.
a little bit prickly on the tongue, but not too serious. I like it.
You say?
There's two guys. One, I'm not sure where he's from. The guy who was down is Australian, but I'm not sure who's the brewer. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him.
What is his name? Sean or something?
No, that's this guy.
Oh, that's you.
And Troy is you.
I'm Troy.
The guy from Big Step is called Alex.
Alex. I don't know why I had Sean on the brain.
But it's really cool to see that there are. I've actually got a list going at the moment of craft breweries around Africa, and we're probably
Yes.
we're in double digits outside of South Africa. There's somewhere around 15, I would say, maybe 20.
15.
Certainly no more than 20,
But
or at least that I've found.
Any in Zimbabwe?
Yep, there's 3.
Oh, wow. Okay, because I kind of... I hope things turn around for Zimbabwe, because I really believe that they're also a very big beer drinking nation.
Well, we'll see in
When it's not craft beer, it's Chibuku, which is not... I don't know if we can classify that as craft beer. It's very sour. But anyway, I hope...
So are a lot of craft beers.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least it's meant to be.
But speaking of African craft breweries, do you guys see potential for more to open? Should we... If only there was someone who was organizing a competition of sorts.
You
That-
segue like a mother.
Like a llama. I don't know why I said llama, but
space llama.
You guys are. I'm not going to say too much because I don't know too much. But you guys are.
About anything.
Just in general, you guys are organizing. I believe a first. It's a beer cup, an African beer cup. Am I saying it right?
You are saying it correctly. The African Beer Cup.
I got something right. Okay.
So obviously we have beer competitions, but we are launching next year the African Beer Cup, which we're encouraging breweries from around the continent. So any beer, macro, micro, that's commercially brewed in Africa.
Commercially,
so
with a license.
So not home brewers. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyone who's a licensed brewer, whether it's a massive brewery or a tiny little brew pub in pick a random country.
Tanzania.
Where?
I said Malawi.
Okay.
Good option.
Yeah, that's closer.
Why? Where did you guys get this idea from?
Over to Sean. This is Sean's original.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm passionate about the continent and fortunate enough to, Lucy and I have traveled quite a bit, and I get to travel for work. And I love going around and trying the different beers. And I thought it was. I guess it was 2 parts. For one, I thought there was room for another beer competition in South Africa for the craft guys, but I thought that it made sense to try and go a little bit bigger and try and I guess push the idea of beer across the continent. I mean, my hope is that in several years, because most of the big guys around, it's all lagers, and that will be the dominant category in the African Beer Cup by far. But my hope is that maybe after they do it a couple of times, they enter, they come down and they see how everything happens. Some of them maybe win some awards, and they think maybe we should release a stout or an ale. And I mean, if you think it's not like lager is obviously very popular around the continent, but so is Guinness 4 and Extra, which is by no means an easy drinking beer. Like that is a big, roasty, quite strong beer to drink. It's not easy drinking. And if you can get into that beer, you can get into an IPA, you can get into a Russian Imperial Stout or something like that. So the markets are growing all across the continent. So I think it's time for breweries to kind of maybe go outside of their comfort zone. And our hope with the African Beer Cup is maybe it pushes some of them to do that. And also we were able to crown. We want to have a very well run, legitimate judging a competition where people say the beer that won is, that is the best beer.
Or the beers.
Or the beers.
There would be beers across many countries.
You know what I like about this story, and it's a bit of a David and Goliath story, because it's almost as if you, Sean, or David, ironic as that is, because you, not a short man, a David versus Goliath story, because it's no secret that AB InBev wants to push Budweiser throughout Africa. They're using South Africa as a base. At least this is fact in my head. Well, this is what I believe to be true. They're going to use South Africa as a base and then move their way up through Africa because they want to roll out their products, namely Budweiser. Yeah. And I do see this as a David and Goliath story, because there you are, one man, a husband and wife couple, with friends behind you, of course. I'll be right behind you, Sean. Trying to promote micro-brewed beer or craft beer, however you want to say it, artisanal beer, different kinds of beer, yet there's going to be another locomotive racing past. But that's fine. And I think at the end of the day, as long as beer gets promoted, different beers, but also we grow beer, but we also, within growing beer, we grow different segments and spots and stuff like that. Like I said, stouts, Russian Imperials, as you said.
Yeah, one of the goals of the African Beer Cup is to promote beer culture across the African continent, right? So, as you say, different styles, encouraging maybe, as Sean said, the larger brewers to try and come up with something different, but also encouraging people to set up microbreweries or brew pubs or whatever around the continent.
Yeah, and I mean, our goal with this is obviously we want to run an incredible competition, but also want to work with the winners to make sure that they push their winning, to really get it out there that if you have that logo on your bottle or in your brewery, it means you've won something very prestigious.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not, it's not an awards competition where you get an award for each category. We're going off the BJCP categories. There'll be 1 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. That's it. So for IPAs, for example, there'll be 1 gold medal winner.
Is there
1 silver and 1 bronze?
Is there a competition you can kind of try and emulate? I'd imagine the US has
the World Beer Cup, I think, is Lucy and I were down there this year, and I think if we were trying to emulate any one competition, it would be that one. Okay. And that's the Olympics of beer. That's the most prestigious.
That's right.
If you win there and you go against, 8,500
8,250, I think.
Beers were entered, and they gave out, I think, like 300 awards. So to win is huge.
Yes.
And that's what we want to kind of push. Where if you win an African Beer Cup medal, that's big.
You need to be good friends with Sean and Lee.
Well, more than that, you need to have.
You need to have great beer.
Great beer. Yeah.
Great beer is more important than great friends. Let's be honest now. Priorities, Troy. Priorities.
Oh. Speaking of great beer, let's move on to another one.
I'm enjoying this, I must say.
It's no dissidence. It's no dissident golden ale.
It's quite a different style, but I actually, not wanting to sound like a negative Nelly, I didn't necessarily have the highest hopes, largely because of it looks like a South African craft beer from a few years back when people were bottle conditioning and they got that layer of sludge in the bottom of the bottle, and I was like, oh, here we go again.
Isn't it nice, though?
It's actually really clean.
Isn't it nice that you actually surprise yourself?
They're using good ingredients as well. They list all the malts and the hops. They're not using. I imagine getting ingredients for them is a bit of a mission.
Yes.
So if you're going to import ingredients, you might as well import from Europe as import from South Africa. I don't know. I don't know how it works for them. But they're using all, I think, European malts, right, and American hops. So they're not sort of scrimping and trying to use whatever's the cheapest they can get their hand. And you can tell with the beer. I think the hops especially, it shines through that they're not.
And that's called Big Sip.
Big Sip.
I like that. Well, I wish Big Sip the best of luck. And as I said to Alex the other night, not Sean, it would be great to get them on the show, to get the first Botswanan craft brewery on #BeerTime. So watch out for that. It's 2:45. Let's move on to our next beer. Is that a local beer? haven't seen that on the Cape Town shelves.
It's not on the shelves yet. This is a sneaky peek.
Oh la la!
I think it's being released actually in September. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to show you this.
Well,
but I'm going to
we can
because
tell we can tell the audience, and we can drink it.
So this is, people might have seen it flashing around on social media. This is the Durban Poison, according to the label, Cannabis IPA.
Wow.
From Poison City, who are based in Durban. It does not have any cannabis in it. It has hemp seed in it because it is not legal to put cannabis.
I know
in
a few
beer.
brewers who would disagree.
Well, no, they don't do it they don't bottle it and sell it now.
I know what's his name? Jake Macy, who owns that Apple. The Apple Smash.
Apple Marmalade place.
Apple Marmalade restaurant.
I'm just going to drink this myself.
No, pour that. Let's give it a taste. Guys, thank you, quickly, for pushing beer. Not just in South Africa, but for going big. Flip it, pushing in Africa. I mean, that's pretty awesome. So, tip of the cap to you. Thank you. I don't think we say thank you enough in this industry. So, thank you. Let me be one of the first to say thank you. Speaking of great things, industry. Let's talk about Beer Week. Before we talk about Beer Week, let's sniff. Oh, it smells like.
So the idea, I think, with the beer, so it does have hemp seed, which the guys from Durban, from Poison City, so that helps with mouthfeel. It gives kind of an oiliness. I'm not very familiar with hemp seed, and I'm not terribly familiar with cannabis, to be completely honest with you.
Don't say
I
that.
prefer the hop side of the family. You know, cannabis and hops are cousins.
They are.
I'm from the hop side of the family. I'm sure you boys would disagree, and you'd be on the other side.
I don't know.
And he said that the hemp seed affects the head retention. I think you can.
Imagine it's the oil that comes through.
Yeah, but I think what they've done is tried to use hops that mimic the dankness, if you will, the weedy aroma. Have they succeeded?
I think
it smells hempy.
I think it's a nice beer.
Sip
if
it.
you didn't put cannabis IPA, I mean, I think they'll sell it because it says cannabis IPA, but it is a gimmick. I mean, it's a complete gimmick. It doesn't smell like marijuana. It doesn't taste like marijuana. You can use, as an example, I mean, I don't know about the legality, but you could use like a marijuana tincture to get you that smell without the THC, or an extract.
I'm so ignorant in this field of subject.
But it could be done. I mean, you can. There's
We could do a hash time.
Hashtag beer tag.
Oh, yes, that sounds like something I'd say.
But cannabis aside, I think it's a nice beer.
I think it's a well-made beer. It's tasty.
6%, which you wouldn't guess, eh? I think it's like very, very drinkable.
And I think it will sell, as you said, because of the cannabis. Durban Poison. Isn't that another name for weed?
It's
quite a well-known thing.
It's
again, my ignorance in the subject.
Mosaic to hops is what Durban Poison is to marijuana, right? It's a type of marijuana. We all sound very. I actually sat down with the guys. They know more about marijuana than I do, and I learned quite a bit because I, like you, I'm a little.
I think it's pronounced marijuana.
Marijuana. Okay. Well, with beer laws changing so that we can buy it in supermarkets, who knows? One day.
Well,
cannabis can be sold in supermarkets.
If they legalize marijuana, then it might actually be feasible to. What was his name? Dreg Macy.
Dreg Macy.
To release some of his marijuana beers, which are very. It smells and tastes like a marijuana beer.
Yeah,
and hits like one too. I understand.
Depends on which one.
You need to take a few days off work, apparently.
But it's been done already in the States. Yeah. And
hi, Jag.
Did you read the article? I think Murray Slater posted it about they actually in your land of Canada have made a marijuana beer, but it's not got malt in it. It is a marijuana beer, made of cannabis.
More like a spritzer.
I actually don't know the differences between marijuana and cannabis, if there is one. But
same thing.
Okay, good. Sound like my gran.
We're gonna have to get experts. We have to get Jake on the show again. Jake Macy. Yeah.
But you're gonna consider because I remember chatting with some guys from the UCT brewing team about this years ago, And they were saying to make a tea out of it. But I don't think you get very much THC.
But it's very, very strict for you to be able. It has to be.
You'd have to get it tested, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it has to be below. Oh, here I've got it right here. It's my notes. Below 20 parts per million of THC, then it's legal. So this says 3 parts per million or something. So but
this
it
has.
needs
I
to
thought
be.
this doesn't have THC. Does hemp have THC?
I don't know.
Guys, this
Tell us
week.
all.
No, there's
This
no
week.
THC in the seeds.
Let's move on.
Sorry.
Let's move on. Do any of you have plans this week? Pretty quiet week, chilled week lined up.
That sounds lovely. A chilled week. No, we don't
I'm
have a chilled
I'm
week.
nervous. I'm nervous for this week.
It's
Excited.
I'm nervous for my liver by the end of the week. I think
We're seeing you tonight, or just one of you, both of you.
just myself. this
Okay, so
evening.
tonight at Beer House is the debates, industry discussion on craft beer, big beer, and from what I know, there's a quiz afterwards, which I'm looking very forward to. It's titled "Are You Smarter Than Mary Slater?" No, "Are You Smarter Than a Beer Judge?" or something like
a
that.
beer whisperer.
Beer Whisperer. Looking forward to that. Wednesday is, personally for me, a chill day, the quiet before the storm. Thursday we've got IPA day. What are your? I mean, there's just so much going on. I think there's
There's not as much as there was last year, though. Actually,
Really?
we
Devil's Peak seem to be
Devil's
doing
Peak
everything.
have got something on at the Salt River Tap Room, and then there's
Banana Jam
well, Afro Caribbean have
Yes.
got an event going upstairs. Beer House, I've got to Meet the
Meet the Brewers.
vibe, and
I know Woodstock will do something.
Woodstock always do something.
And I mean, last year we started at Jack Black. They had a whole bit of an IPA fest. I haven't seen anything that
No,
they've
I
been
haven't
doing.
seen anything from Jet Black. I've only seen those few. I mean, we'll be at Afro Caribbean, I think, in the evening, but I would like to swing by Devil's Peak. They've got Unfiltered Blockhouse, which is always a treat.
Unfiltered
But
Blockhouse.
also,
wow.
Little Wolf have done a first attempt, he said, at a brute IPA. So a super bone dry.
Fancy. That's fancy.
Yeah, so I'd like to, because nobody's done that in South Africa yet. I think he's the first person in South Africa. It's a style that somebody kind of came up with last year. And to my knowledge, no one's tried it in South Africa yet. I have nothing to compare it to because I haven't had one. But, you know, I'm definitely going to swing by the Devil's Peak Salt River Tap Room.
Me too.
That's good. And then, yeah, so I'll be at Beer House for Meet the Brewers, which is always fun. I tend to, as always, forget things that happen when I go to Beer House. That's Thursday. Friday is International Beer Day. No one has ever really been able to understand why they put IPA Day right next to International Beer Day.
I think it's a silly idea because usually International Beer Day for me is International Hair of the Dog / Hangover Day. And
Yeah.
I never do anything on International Beer Day. This year, however, I will be at Beer House again because there's the cask tapping ceremony.
Yes.
I think ceremony might be. I don't know. I'm British, and if you say ceremony to me, I am expecting
The Queen.
beefeater type, people in velvet robes, fur and stuff, and stupid hats, and
So will we see you in a Beefeater outfit, big
I
hat?
really must get one.
No.
Where would I get one before Friday?
So that's the cask festival at Beer House on Friday. And again, I might have a little bit of an early night on Friday, just because on Saturday it's the big one. It's the Woodstock Winter Beer Festival at the Castle of Good Hope. I think it's the first beer festival at the Castle, which is going to be quite
For hundreds of years, I imagine they had
historic.
a couple of festivals
I'm
there
sure they had a
anyway.
few ales, a few cheeky little festivals. But that's on Saturday. I think that our ticket's still available, and it's super reasonable. And there are going to be a lot of beers. Will we see you guys there?
Yep, Sean's got a stand.
Yep.
I think we shared a stand last year.
You were doing League of Beers, weren't you?
No,
Hashtag
I was promoting our documentary.
Oh yes, Brewing the
I didn't have beer. I was just there standing, but it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yes, I think I gave you some beers.
I think that
I
might
think a
happen
lot of
again.
men come up and said, "What are you doing?" And you said, "I don't know."
That's when it started. That's when this
Story of my
music issue
life.
started. No, it's going to be cool. It's always a good festival, and the venue's really awesome this year.
Yes,
Yeah, I think it's one of the only events that really gets it right, where the consumer has a great time, doesn't pay shitloads to get in. The brewers have fun, sell a lot of beer, and make some money, and the organizers, I think make some money and have a good time doing it.
And the other thing is that every brewery has to bring a unique beer that they've brewed
speciality
specially
beer
for the festival. So
Great.
all wintry stuff. So there's some Amarula chocolate stout and
Greg and I
Waffle-
brewed a
chocolate
Malva
waffle.
pudding beer.
Malva pudding beer.
Malva pudding. Woodstock are doing the waffle beer, the Bar One ice cream beer. Dissidents, you're dissidents. I'm not dissidents.
I believe there's
Drifter, and myself and Craig and Cole from Bear Country, we made a Poiky beer, so that's going to be interesting. Poiky bacon maple syrup. I'm hoping it tastes delicious.
But people do need to get there earlier rather than later to taste these beers. Last year, I don't know, the festival started at 1 and I got there at like 3 or 4. All of those beers had gone.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people bring like 2 kegs or something and it's all...
And it's gone. So,
yeah.
so if you're listening and you want to taste and try some of those specialty beers, you should get there when the gates open. Don't be a fool.
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Don't be a fool and get there at 3, 4 p.m. And say, like, where's the beer? I mean, come on. Just...
Also, earlier is better, I think. There's a better vibe. You can go around, you can chat with the brewers and see what they made and ask them about the beer. When it gets to around 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, it gets manic and quite hectic. Where it's literally you're just pouring pints and handing them out to people. For money, of course.
Guys, do we have a few minutes left, 2 or 3. We can stretch it a little bit more if we want. Do we have time for another beer? Would you like another beer?
I said you had some sort of can of some sort.
I didn't see that, but yes. I'm just going to say yes.
Well, our last beer is an international beer, and the reason why I bought it is because a family member, my mother, was in London, and she thought, let me buy my son some beer. She didn't know where to go, so she went down to, I think it was the local Tesco.
Because you can buy beer in supermarkets in
And
the
she
UK.
just said, okay, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and she picked this delicious craft beer for me. And it is from Vocation Brewery. It's an American Pale Ale, 5.3%. It's called Pride and Joy. And I think we've had this before at
recognize the
Jake
label.
Macy's house when we had a beer get-together. So I think we've had this. But let's have it again. Color pale, aroma citrus, taste crisp and hoppy. Isn't it great?
Well.
Isn't it great that you can get a canned beer in a supermarket, and at probably a really good, decent price?
But you know
What
I think
a time to be alive!
Do you know what I think the goal should be for here? Like in the UK, in the US, the idea of having craft beer is normalized. You know, the idea it is not an occasion to go out and say, "Oh, we're going to go look at all the beers I can get at this restaurant." Every restaurant, if you don't have craft beer, it's seen as weird. And if it just, and that should be the goal here, where every restaurant will just say, "Well, we need to stock some couple of local beers because it would be like not having water." And then people start going, "Well, also we should have some of the better craft brews," and it just kind of becomes a little bit normal rather than this bragging of we have craft beer. It just becomes normalized.
Yeah, just
And I
get
think
your
that
beer.
should- yeah.
So let me finish the show with leading on from that, and I've been thinking about how to end these shows more, get more structure. But let me ask you both of you the same question, Sean. Following on from what you just said, what are 3 things that you want to happen in South African beer? And it's a very broad beer, but what do you want and you can be in a perfect world or any kind of imagination, any kind of world. What do you want? What would you like to see?
Number
happen?
one, I'd like to see the level of quality improve drastically. I mean, this beer from Vocation Brewery, I think this isn't a massive brewery.
Wow, it smells.
But it's
delicious,
amazing.
fruity.
But I think we need to get to the point where you can't put out crap, and if you want to do well, you have to put out amazing beers and different beers. So that's what I would love to see, where the quality would rise. I guess number 2, like I said, I want to see beer become normalized. Where it's just, it's a normal idea to have food and beer pairing. It's a normal idea when you go out to bring a 6-pack of really good IPA. And I guess
It's normal to, when you go to a restaurant, the waiter will bring you the correct glass.
Yeah, exactly. Everything just kind of becomes kind of normal. And like when I go to nice restaurants and say, "Can I see your beer menu?" They don't look at me like I'm an idiot. And they kind of go, "Oh,
I'm sorry I looked at you like that one time when you came to my spot."
Well, exactly. But everyone, you should have a beer menu. You have a wine menu.
Yeah.
Give me the wine menu, but call it your drinks menu and put beer on there. And put craft gin on there. And put craft rum on there. And then I guess finally the other thing I'd like to see is, I guess in a way I'd like to see, especially new breweries, I guess become a bit more local rather than this idea of we must become massive and national. I would say, well, actually, you will only get my beers in a 20 square kilometer radius, and that's it. And if you want it, you have to come to me. I mean, that's what we've done with Dissident and with Africa Beer and Brewing Company. There's a couple places. Well, actually, you can't get them. We've talked about putting them other places, and with the canning line now, we can do that. But it's actually better to say, if you want the beers, you come to us. And I can guarantee
and focused.
Small and focused, and you can actually make a lot more for guys who are thinking about doing. You can make a lot more money being small and focused than big and all over the place.
No, exactly. And you, in a funny kind of way, you plan long-term growth by concentrating on one spot.
Exactly, and then you slowly build it up, or maybe you get a new tap room coming up.
If you want that, yeah.
If you want that, or you stay small, you make enough money to survive, and but you can get big. I mean, look at Aegir Project should be the model for anyone thinking about doing it. But obviously, I mean, and also then I guess going back to point number one, the reason Rory at Aegir does well is you can say, oh, he had a very good business model, he's very good branding, and it's true. But the reason he does well is because his beer is good. If his beer was shit, he wouldn't be there anymore because people would stop going.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can say that on the radio.
No, you can say poop.
Are we not allowed to swear?
No, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. Apologies.
Lucy, your 3 things. 3 things that you want to see happen. And let me stress, it can happen over a year, 10 years. There's no time frame. But what do you want to see happen?
Okay, so Sean's already covered quality, which would be... I mean, I think the level of
you
quality...
Can repeat, you can...
Well, the level of quality has improved drastically in the past few years. But there is still, like, if you walk into a bottle store that's got a lot of choice, and there's a lot of things on there that you haven't heard of before, I'm hesitant. It's like, do I want to risk 30-something bucks on this? I think and I'm not quite sure at which level it is, the pricing is getting insane. Yeah. So many people send me photographs of like, here's a beer that I just had that was like, there was a place in the Free State, and like the beers was like 95 rand for a CBC Pilsner or something. There was absurd prices. So somebody somewhere is taking the piss. I think prices are getting a little out of hand. I know,
agreed.
Of course, that craft beer is going to be more expensive than mainstream beer for a variety of reasons.
It's like a fillet steak. It's going to cost a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's like a fillet steak from Frankie Fenner. It's it's like it's hand reared and blah blah. You can't pump it out as much. They're using better ingredients, smaller quantities, but still, it's starting to get a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, you hope they're using better ingredients.
This is the problem sometimes, right? You're like, oh, here's my beer, it's 45 rand from the brewery, and they're using all local ingredients, which their users are like, hey, we use all local ingredients. You're like, yeah, but are you using the best ingredients you can possibly get? No, you're not. I would like to see fine dining establishments treat beer in the same way that they treat wine, or at least somewhere in the same ballpark.
Or look after them the same way.
Look after them. Have some on the menu would be a good start.
Yes.
It's infuriating. You go somewhere and they've got a wine list that looks like a telephone directory. That's old school, right? There's a 90s. Remember telephone directories? Like a yellow pages. And then they don't have a beer list. And you're like, oh, okay. And Sean mentioned this as well. It never ceases to amaze me that you can go into a restaurant, and I'm not talking like a fancy restaurant now, an average like a family restaurant like Seaforth in Simonstown.
Sure.
And on the menu, they'll have the wines, they'll have gin and tonics and, spirits, hot chocolate, coffee, water, soft drinks, everything, but no beer on the menu. Like, do you have a beer list? No. Then, like you say, they look at you like you're nuts. So you ask, what beers do you have? And they say, all of them. We literally had this at Seafood. They say, we have all of them, which means they've got Hansa and Castle and Heineken and Peroni and maybe Budweiser now. Yay.
Then you throw them for a loop and go, great, I'll have the Devil's Peak Fanny Hout.
Yeah, because you have all of the beers, right? But I would like to see, I mean, it's got to, I think, we've got that group of, like Jerry's Burger Bar kind of places that have good beer selection.
Decent,
Those guys are covered. But the high-end people, they need to start understanding that beer can pair with food just as the way... I think that's my third thing, actually. I would like to see people give beer the respect it deserves, not in a snobby, like, beer is better than wine kind of way, but just in a, yes, you can pair food with beer. Yes, you can have an evening where you invite your friends over and do a beer tasting. Yes, you can go to La Colombe and order good beer. You can go to the test kitchen and look at their beer menu, and their sommelier can say, oh, this beer pairs well with this. I remember once we went to the Vineyard Hotel, what's it called? Anyway, the restaurant there, Myoga, and asked about, they've got a pretty impressive beer list. Unfortunately, they hadn't got anything that was on the list in stock. And Sean asked her, what about these different craft beers? What would you recommend? And the guy goes, I don't know, I don't really like craft beer, I'd get a Peroni. That's literally what he said. Can you imagine if that was the case with wine? I don't really like these fancy wines. I'd get the Chateau Libertas if I was you. So there. I'm going to stop now before I rant.
So those three things were food and beer pairing. You want to see more of that. You want to see restaurants taking care of their menus.
And people stop taking the piss with pricing.
Cool. You did mention quality, though. And if someone wanted to... If someone was starting out from home brewing to going commercial, is there somewhere they can go to learn a little bit more about this whole craft beer thing? Let's say I wanted to start a brewery. Who could I go to? Is there anyone that offers I don't want to do a degree or like this massive certification.
But maybe like a 3-day course.
Maybe a 3-day course somewhere at a local brewery. Is there something I can do?
There is something that I've heard about.
How's that segue?
That was beautiful. Seamless, nobody noticed. Yes, we are running another Brewing Beyond the Basics course at the end of next month. 24th to the 26th of August.
And can I just say, you offer a very good course because it is a jam-packed course where you put in all the ingredients, everything you need to know. I wouldn't say it's enough. You can never have enough education in terms of being a brewer. But if you have started a brewery, I'm going to be quite critical now. If you've started a microbrewery in South Africa and you haven't done a brewing course, a degree in brewing or studied anywhere, if you haven't done Lucy's course, or I know that Apiwe does a course in Joburg, if you are out there and you're brewing beer and you haven't done any technical training like this, I can pretty much say that's... You need to get on this board. You need to get on this train in terms of getting an understanding. Just for example, you have a gentleman who comes by and talks about water, and that's Mr. Sean himself. But it's that kind of thing which people don't understand about.
We have a range of speakers, and they're sort of invited because of their knowledge. And so Sean's a water nerd, the nerdiest kind of nerd you could possibly get. JC from Devil's Peak usually does the talk on yeast.
Yes.
Wolfgang does it from CBC does. So we try and get people who are experts in each particular.
Yes.
Nick Birkby from the Brewers Co-op. He's the only person I've ever met who
passionate about malt.
He planted and harvested and malted. He planted his own barley, grew it, malted, harvested it, malted it, and brewed it. And he's a malt head, if there is such a thing.
Love it.
So he always does the malt section. So it is not meant to be a professional training. It's not but I think anything that you can do to further your knowledge, and especially, like you say, if you're a home brewer who's read a couple of books and now you're opening a brewery, getting some kind, doing any learning you can do is going to be great, and even greater if you book a spot on Brewing Beyond the Basics.
Yeah, well, I think if there are home brewers out there who want to improve their brews, this is perfect. But also, if there are people who are looking to start a microbrewery, it's great because we do kind of go through the kind of business aspects of it as well,
and sourcing equipment,
and everything like that. But also, I mean, I always get a bit annoyed and frustrated when you do meet guys who think they know it all. They're like, oh, I'm happy with my beer, so I don't need to learn anything else. And I mean, Wolfgang's the best example. He's been brewing for 40 years, 50 years, maybe.
I don't think you should say 50.
75 years. Wolfgang's aged well. But he's still, he'll go to every beer conference and he'll ask people questions, and he still learns. You'll never know everything about beer. So it's even if you're, I've been brewing for 11, 12 years. I think about 10% of everything you probably could know. So you can always learn more.
Plus, the course is really good fun. You get lots of tasters, and we do a little food and beer pairing thing.
Yeah,
we do an introduction to the BJCP and off flavors and all this kind of stuff.
So if people want to find out more, they can go to your website.
Yep.
They can go to Facebook.
Brewmistress.co.za
and
find the information there.
All the information there. Just the wrap up of the show. We've spoken about quite a bit. The first half we spoke about the campaign, Let Us Buy Beer. If you haven't signed up yet, please go sign up. The more names, the more signatories we get, the better. And it's literally your name and your email address. That's all we need. You can go to letusbuybeer.co.za or .com. Look at that. We're getting fancy these days. So go up, sign your name, watch the video, find out a little bit more. And then, if you've been living under a rock, we have the beer week of all beer weeks this week, where we've got events happening all in and around Cape Town. And I suppose, where can people find out more about that, the beer week? Lucy, do you have something?
Just generally, just go on Facebook.
Go on
Facebook
so
and
much.
click on events.
Events, yeah.
It should tell you. Or Grogfest, as mine says, because I have my Facebook in Pirate English.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have listeners who are not in Cape Town, right? Because I know it's also
International.
Essay on Tap in Durban this Saturday. And there's a little festival happening out at Zibonki Brewery in Stellenbosch as well, for people who can't make the journey in. Because making the journey in for a beer fest is one thing, but making the journey back again is troublesome. And they're doing free shuttles from Stellenbosch to Zibonki.
Love it.
So.
Love it. It is Randolph's birthday. Randolph's birthday today.
Today, is it?
Beer House. Randolph. He's having his after party on Saturday. After the festival. I don't know how well that's going to go. But, Randolph?
They're going to make us sing.
Happy birthday. I'm not going to make you sing. God.
Can we make you sing?
We're going to make Lana Del Rey sing.
Who's that?
She's only my idol, who
Idolize.
You want to be
I would like to be her. So when you listen to the song, please imagine me singing to you, Sean. Sean and Lucy, I'm glad after an hour I got to know you a bit better and get your names right. Thank you for joining me on the show. And again, thank you for everything you guys are doing. I will see you guys this week. I will see you this week, right?
We'll see you right now because we're seeing you now.
Yes,
but we'll see you tonight. And we'll see you on Thursday. And we'll see you on Friday.
There's a lot happening. Oh, I gotta
You're
get.
going to be fed up of a spice on
I'm gonna. But when you have beer, it's all good. So, guys, thank you very much for listening to all our international guests. Thank you for tuning in. I know we've gone a little bit over time, but we have to get in all the good stuff, right?
It was worth it, I'm sure.
It was worth it.
I'm waiting to hear Lana Del Rey.
I'm waiting as well. Guys, we will see you next time. Thank you very much again. And see you next week. Ciao, ciao. Thanks for listening, guys and girls. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Just search for #BeerTime. That's #BeerTime written out in full. Hope you enjoyed the show, and check you next time. Cheers.